recording that.
I'm Arnold Harvey. I'm a not very successful professional historian and writer. I've lived in Stoke Newington Church Street for the past 24 years, and I'm aware of the Clissold Leisure Centre issue, though the only time I've been in the building was when it was used as a polling station in one of the elections. The history of it, the contract, the commission was arranged in 1997, and originally it was supposed to cost 7 million. It was built and opened in 2002, had to be closed in 2003, and by the time it reopened again, it cost 32 million, which included 14 million of repairs and alterations made after the first closure. And the simple, kind of most obvious thing that went wrong is this is a case which is probably quite common of an ambitious, up-and-coming, prize-winning firm, or basically an architect, Stephen Hodder, overextending himself, based in Manchester, wanting to sort of establish himself in London, and just growing too large, and his whole business getting out of control through overextension. But in this particular case, I think the real responsibility wasn't the architect screwing up. If a rich individual, for example, hires an architect, and the architect makes a mess, then you can blame the architect. But in the case of a large municipal authority which has a large architects department, you know, in theory, London Borough of Hackney's architectural team had more experience of project management than any commercial company ought to have. And it strikes me that a lot of the problems this place had was because the architects department of Hackney adopted a project, chose a project, asked for a project even, that was totally inappropriate. There was all sorts of problems in quality control and just general project management, but one of the major issues was a very ambitious, wavy, sort of interesting roof. A kind of there's problems also with the cantilever staircases. Now, when a municipal authority commissions a public utility building, the two considerations: one is that it shouldn't cost very much, and the second thing is that it shouldn't involve or promise to involve significant maintenance costs for 20 or 30 years. It should be cheap and cheerful. The whole choice should be, is this an economical building which isn't going to require a constant injection of money to keep it going for the next 20 or 30 years until it's time to pull it down and replace it. Now, this elaborate roof and the cantilever staircases, these are all things which promised that even if they had been built properly and had actually been up to standard the year after completion, these are things that were likely to require investment because they would deteriorate much more quickly than less ambitious structures. And it seems to me that a project like this, it shouldn't ever have been conceived as a prestige project. It's just a simple community utility in a side street. They boasted after it's reopened that in the first 6 weeks after the reopening, 17,000 people came to swim or to use the sports hall or fitness classes, bearing in mind that not all these people were residents in the community, in the borough in any case, this is something like 17,000 is something like 10% of the population of the borough. Now, since over 6 weeks, most of those visits were repeat visits. It's as if 2% of the population of the borough used the place. 9,500 swims in the first 6 weeks. Well, 42 days, that's about 226 a day, something like 20 an hour or something. I'm not objecting to revision of this. This is a utility which some people need, other people want. I actually, in common with most people in the borough, simply didn't have any use for it, had no personal interest in it. And I'm not actually sure that it was primarily the idea of this being the big project, you know, that the architects' departments, all the architects thought, well, this is the biggest thing that we're going to have our hands on in the next 5 years, so let's have fun with it. I actually thought it was something even cruder than that. They liked Stephen Hodder because he was a prize winner, and they thought that if we have a prize-winning project, this would look good on our CV, and that when they try and get a job in another council at a higher salary, the fact that they've been involved in prize-winning projects would look good at the interview. And this is nothing to do with the community. This was just a minor social amenity in a large borough, and the architects department decided that they would get a prestigious prize-winning architect who was going to give them an ambitious, in my opinion, only moderately exciting. It's actually a question of whether it was a really very interesting building, because frankly, from outside it looks like a modernist, not even a postmodernist, but a modernist box. The wavy roof might have amused some judges in some architectural competition, but you can't even see it unless you're actually inside. I think most people who'd used the pool wouldn't even notice what the roof was like. You know, that they were attracted by basically a lot of gimmicks which they thought would sort of draw attention, not to Hackney, but to simply their own cleverness. And this was entirely the wrong attitude. The only right attitude for a social, for a community amenity like this is practicality and economy. And being economic doesn't mean bad architecture, because of course architecture isn't simply, or perhaps isn't even primarily, a question of interesting structural engineering gimmicks. It's a question of how you organise space. It might be that the best architecture is the one which makes the best use of space at the lowest cost, rather than has the space organised with interesting, sort of complicated, pioneering mechanisms.